Hi everyone, my name's SirBoberus and welcome to my channel. About a year ago now, I made a video going over my Xbox 360 collection, so I thought I'd update myself, just to keep a record, and if you're here, you're watching it as well, so that's nice. I'll go over games that I've played that were notable this year, and that's about it. So, the first game on the shelf, as you can see, is 007 Bloodstone, and that game was really good. I really enjoyed beating it, to be honest, and it was a fun experience as a whole. Now, for the achievement hunters out there, FIFA 06 Road to World Cup. Specifically, this Road to World Cup FIFA 06 has ridiculously easy achievements. The full 1000 gamer score is really easy. I'd highly recommend it to an achievement hunter. For those of you who've played Gears of War, I would actually recommend this game. I know that sounds strange. I'm playing it at the minute, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. I can't believe this, but 50 Cent made a decent video game, and it was genuinely quite fun to play, so I would highly recommend it if you played Gears of War and are looking for some third-person action shooter. Don't keep up with the story, though, it's not exactly brilliant. Another game for the achievement hunters out there, Adventure Time Finn and Jake Investigations. This is a point-and-click style game. Really quite easy, to be honest, but I would highly recommend a guide if you're going for the full 1000 gamer score because of the snails achievements. For that, you need to find certain collectibles throughout your playthrough, and I would recommend doing that. A game that I picked up recently that I'm intending to play, Amazing Spider-Man 3. Not 3, sorry, Amazing Spider-Man. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but as you know, Spider-Man is now a PlayStation exclusive franchise, and these games are getting quite pricey, so if you're a collector, definitely look out for these as and when you find them. You've got a franchise here in general, the Assassin's Creed one. I do need a couple more. Rogue stands out. I think there may be one or two more, but I've got most of them, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, Brotherhood and Revelations, and they're all pretty good, to be honest. But as I've already been talking about achievement hunters already in this video, but the most important game for an achievement hunter ever, Avatar, The Legend of Aang, The Burning Earth. This game was one of the easiest games I've ever played. I'd like to say a thank you to Harry Atomic for sending me this game from his store, Puka Puka Games. It came incredibly quickly, to be honest, and in incredible condition. And I'm not sure if he's uploading on YouTube anymore, but his store was very high quality. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Batman Arkham franchise here, and I've beaten Arkham Asylum, and I've got as many achievements as I can out of that, nearly completed it. Currently, I'm finishing Arkham City. I've done the story, and I'm going to do the New Game Plus achievement, and I haven't touched Arkham Origins yet, but I heard that this one is the least quality one. In all, I would highly recommend the first two, however, from what I've played of them. Now, one of my biggest gaming sins here, at least according to my friends, is Bioshock. I have a good friend who would recommend this game to me frequently, and I still haven't played it, so I'm sorry, Martin, I will play Bioshock, okay? This is a promise. And a game that Metal Jesus Rocks has recommended many a time, Blur. It's often described as Mario Kart with real cars. I've never actually got around to playing it yet. There are quite a few games that I haven't played in the collection, and that's one of the ones I need to address. So ignore that jump there, because I keep my games on the same height level, because it makes more sense alphabetically, and the shelving units are separated. So moving on here, here's a game for you to stay away from, Brink. Unless you're a collector, do not buy this game. I know it's 50p, I only paid 12 for it from when they were closing down game, but this game is honestly awful. There's not very much redeeming about it. It's an okay shooter at absolute best. However, a game I would recommend is Burnout Paradise. This is another great racing game. There's not much more I can say on it, to be honest, because I've only played a small amount of time in the game, but it was very good. Now here's one of the heavy-hitting series, the Call of Duty franchise. You can see there which ones I have. A notable standout would be Call of Duty 2. I completed this game about a month back from the date of recording, and I must say it was quite a good experience, especially on Veteran. It wasn't too difficult, but it still posed a reasonable challenge, and the game was a fairly easy 1000. If you've got 6 to 8 hours and you're looking to get another 360 completion, highly recommend this one. Then, of course, we have a game, again, that I would recommend to stay away from. These two here, Child of Eden and Chromehounds. Chromehounds, because most of the game doesn't work, because it was mostly online. And Child of Eden, because it hurt my eyes. However, it is quite an interesting game in concept. As you can see, it says better with Kinect sensor, but you can play the game entirely with Kinect or with a controller. I played it with a controller, but it still really hurt my eyes. If you have epilepsy, do not play this video game. Seriously, now, I'm not joking. It will hurt you if you have epilepsy. A game that I am planning to finish soon, I've beaten the entire game, I'm just looking to get the last 2 or 3 achievements, is Colin McRae's Dirt. It's a really, really good racing game. I quite enjoy my shooting games, but racing games have been the thing I've played a lot of this year, and Dirt was one of them. It's been really fun, to be honest, and I would highly recommend giving it a go if you haven't already. Now, regardless of who you are, if you're on an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, here are 2 games I recommend, Crackdown and Crackdown 2. Why? Because they are free on the store. Completely free. I own them physically because I managed to pick them up really cheap, and they have quite nice boxes. And I played them, or I'm currently playing Crackdown 1. And then on the end here, for the Achievement Hunters, I've beaten 1 and I've got 2 to go. We've got the CSI games here. I've got, what are they called again? Deadly Intent, Fatal Conspiracy, and Hard Evidence. I've completed Deadly Intent. I'm halfway through Fatal Conspiracy, and Hard Evidence I haven't started yet, although Hard Evidence is the easiest one to complete. They are quite a slog, but they're made by Telltale if that interests you. So moving on to the next shelf over here, we have this shelf here. And the first game that stands out early on, to me at least, is Dead Rising. I need to get round to this one. This is a highly recommended game. I even picked it up in a bundle with Dead Rising 2 and Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, but I haven't played any of them properly yet, to be honest. I've only put an hour or 2 into Dead Rising, and I must play these. Defiance, this is one I would highly recommend skipping out on, again, for those who aren't collectors. I don't think this game works at all. Every time I've tried to play it, it just doesn't work. I think it was an online-only massive game or something like that. However, a game that I am planning to play once I finish with Colin McRae's Dirt is Dirt Showdown. This game is really quite good, to be honest. I think it's fairly alright, you know, in some of its racing mechanics, and it's more refined than Dirt because it came out later, but it's a spin-off game, so take of that what you will. However, if you're looking for something, especially if you're from the 90s, which I'm not, but if you're from that era, Duke Nukem Forever. It's a really interesting game, especially when you consider the history around the development hell that came with it. It's something that I would recommend you experience for yourself before you make an opinion on, though. I intend to, hopefully. Enslaved Odyssey to the West here. This is a game that always gets pointed out, and I bought it because it was pointed out, and I still haven't played it. As you can see, there's a lot of 360 that still needs to be done in my house here. Same thing with the Fallout franchise. I've been playing Fallout 4 very recently, so Fallout 3 is a must-go on the list, as well as, of course, New Vegas. Although a game I have played and mostly beaten is Family Guy Back to the Multiverse, and I'm not the world's biggest Family Guy fan, but believe it or not, this game is pretty good. There's a couple of achievements that will be quite difficult, but the game is overall a decent, enjoyable experience. And if you like Family Guy, I think it's got some decent fan service in it, to be honest. However, regardless of what you like, I highly recommend this game to anyone. Far Cry 3. Vaz is one of the most interesting villains I have ever seen in a video game, and the gameplay is fun, it's a decent completion, there's no odd achievements, that you have no excuse to not play this game. If you were going to take one game on this list that you haven't played yet, I would honestly make it Far Cry 3. Moving on to the next shelf here. As you can see, we have the obligatory wall of FIFAs. 07, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 17. I'm looking to get my hands on 18 and 19 at some point due to their rarity, and hopefully they'll become more common in future for those of you who collect. And of course there's FIFA Street here as well. I do need to get FIFA Street 3. And then you've got a couple of, sports games there. But a game that I have sealed, actually, that's quite interesting here is Forza Horizon. And I think I'll keep it sealed because I don't know if 360 seal collectors are a thing, but I'm more than happy to give it to anyone who is a seal collector, because I'll eventually break the seal, because I do like my Forza games, because currently I'm playing Forza Motorsport 3 here. This game is really, really good. I've had some good time with it, and it is quite a slog to try and get some of the achievements, especially the later ones, and unfortunately I don't think the game is completable because of online achievements, but it has been a really, really fun experience, and I would recommend it for those who like racing games again. However, a game I have played that I wouldn't recommend, unfortunately, is the exclusive for the console, Fusion Frenzy 2. It's just a poor version of Mario Kart. Oh, not Mario Kart, sorry, Mario Party. And it says 40 plus minigames included. That's right, it includes 41 minigames. It's really not good. I ended up with playing it with a friend, and we had to AFK to get the achievements overnight. We left our Xboxes on and went to bed because it was easier than actually playing the poor thing. Now here's a franchise that I would recommend, however, Gears of War. With the same friend, I played through the entire original trilogy, and I haven't played through Judgment yet, although I have a digital code, which is why this one's still sealed again. I managed to pick that up on eBay sealed. It is phenomenal. Gears of War 1 is a great game. Gears of War 2, it arguably is even better. It's my personal favourite. And Gears of War 3 is wow. The way that they work together as a trilogy is very, very good, and I would highly recommend playing it without plot spoilers if you haven't got any, because it is a good, good, good campaign. Now, the game that I actually bought only yesterday, because I did do a pickup yesterday, is Grand Theft Auto 4. Now, I've just started playing this, and on the recommendation of someone, and I think it is really, really, really good. I know I'm only very early in, so that does seem a bit of a, oh, how can you say that, but it's been very enjoyable. I don't like the driving mechanics, however, I do think the game has got really, really big potential, and I would recommend it. However, something I can comment on is this franchise here, Halo. I've been playing the Master Chief Collection more recently, but as their servers are going offline, if you're a fan of this franchise or an achievement hunter, I highly recommend picking any of these games up here and going for the achievements. Halo 3 specifically, I think I'm going to attempt to get complete and get the full gamer score in before it goes offline, and if I have time, maybe Halo Combat Anniversary as well. Reach and ODST, I think, have missable achievements as well as 4, maybe, but I'm not 100% sure on that, as I'm not the world's biggest Halo fan, but it's a very good franchise nonetheless. So moving on to the next shelf here, we have this one, and I'll start off with quite an oddity in the collection, which is History Great Battles Medieval. Let me just get this out here. I didn't think History Channel video games would come out in the UK, especially when you consider the context of the History Channel. I don't think it's really that big a thing in the United Kingdom, at least. But I managed to pick it up from CEX for about £4, and I'm pretty impressed that I did. Although I've never actually got round to playing it, I probably should. It's quite an interesting concept, especially medieval warfare. I don't know how they do that in a game. Now, another game that I've picked up, I do have 2, but only on a disc, and I've played 2, is Just Cause. I do need to pick up 2 properly, though, because disc only isn't part of my collection or something I really enjoy. However, a game I have played a majority of that I do need to go back to. I completely forgot when I played it, to be honest. I played it for about 6 months ago now. Is L.A. Noire. The story here is phenomenal, honestly, and it really does make you feel like you're in the time setting as a detective. It's really, really, really good. And of course, we've got the Left 4 Dead games here, both 1 and 2. I've been playing through 2 with a friend slowly. We get round to them as and when we can. It's a good game, and I haven't touched Left 4 Dead 1 as a result, even though they're basically nearly the same thing, I've been told. Regardless, I'm probably going to play through both and might as well get the achievements and things like that. Unfortunately, I'm lacking a bit on the LEGO set, as you can see here. We've got LEGO Batman 3, Marvel Superheroes, the LEGO Movie video game, which I've fully completed with my sister, LEGO Star Wars 3, which I'm currently playing through, and LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, which I remember beating on the Wii a few years ago now. So absolutely going to go back to that out of nostalgia, and I'm looking forward to playing these. They're normally quite easy to play. They're really, really well made, and they're great for all ages. So regardless of who you are, I would recommend picking up at least one LEGO game for whatever console you got, to be honest, because I think since PS2, maybe even PS1, they've been around. So if you own a video game console, or specifically a 360, which is why I'd assume you'd be watching this, highly recommend playing one of these. Obligatory Madden set there, but Mass Effect, I haven't really touched this yet. I played Mass Effect 1, it didn't grab me straight away, but I know much like an RPG sort of thing, I'm not into RPGs very much, which is why I need to go back and play this game at some point, and that's another promise I have to make myself. Meet the Robinsons, well, no thank you, one day I'll meet you, I suppose. That's what it's like as a collector, isn't it? Minecraft, however, is a game I've completed on the 360 now, which made me very impressed with myself. I've beaten Minecraft's the cross-generation version, and I've done most of the achievements in the Xbox One version, but I went back and explicitly finished this one because I could. However, if you're a Minecraft fan, don't pick up this version of Minecraft Story Mode. You have to pick up the complete Season 1 on the 360. There's a Season 1 disc, which I have here, a Season 2 disc, and a complete season. I think it's called The Complete Story, actually, but only that disc has them all on them, and that's the only way you can actually beat them anymore, because you can't download them after Telltale Games collapsed, and they're still on the store, but you can't download them. It's a very strange situation. So you have to buy the much more expensive disc, which is about £20, whereas I only paid about £3 for this one, but I could only beat the first episode. Regardless, I was going to pick it up anyway, as it's part of the set. And another game here is Monopoly Streets, actually. I think there's 2 Monopoly games on the 360, but I only ever see Monopoly Streets, which is why, as a result, I only have this one. Moving on to the next shelf now. This one here's got another obligatory set down at this end, which we'll get to. But first, Moto Gp, which is a franchise I actually didn't know existed. I'm not a huge fan of motorbikes and racing, so I didn't really know about it, to be honest, but I'm impressed that it's on the console, and they work quite well, so they're a decent thing to play if you're into traditional racing games like Dirt or Forza, and you want something different. The bike mechanics can be quite strange, though. 99 Nights, I picked this one up from a cash converters, and I still haven't played this one because of the Japanese-themed nature. To be honest, I don't know anything about Japanese, I'm not into anime or anything like that, so it did kind of scare me to try, but considering it's an exclusive on the console, I think it's obligatory that I do give it a few hours at some point, which I will do. NBA games there, Baller's the Chosen One, as well as NBA Live, which is actually an EA franchise and different to the 2K games. However, a game that I have to stop and talk about is Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. This is my favourite racing game I've ever played. It's honestly amazing. It's got open world elements, it's got a load of races, and it's quite a short game, but there's a lot more you can do once you've beaten it. Really, really, really fun. Would highly recommend it to anyone. You've got other Need for Speed games here, such as Rivals, Shift 2 Unleashed, and The Run, and Undercover. Now, The Run was a really interesting game. It was a great concept, absolutely brilliant as a concept. I honestly loved The Run. In theory, the idea is there's 100 cars racing across the United States, and they have to reach a specific destination at the end, and the first one there wins, and you have to do it to earn money. And it's a really, really good concept. However, the story hurts it, and the worst part is there are some out-of-the-vehicle sections which sound like they'd be good, but they're quick-time events where you have to press buttons. They're really quite poor, and they drag the game down. But if you ignore that, the game is really well put together, so I would recommend trying it at the very least. There's some NFL and NHL there. I don't really know much about hockey, to be honest. But here is a game that I would recommend anyone pick up, because it's 5 games in one, is the orange box. So you've got Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Team Fortress 2, which is really good, I've played that one before, Portal, Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1. So it's a really, really good deal when you consider the 5 games. I think it's only about £8 in CX, and it will go up in price. However, I would recommend playing this on an alternate account if you're like me and insane about gamerscore, because this game is riddled with odd achievements. Another game riddled with odd achievements is The Outfit, which is why I haven't played it, to be honest, but it just looks so generic. This is the most generic American game I can think of. Look at the back of the box here. Destruction on Demand. I know very little about this game, but I'll give it a go one day. That's the idea of the 360 as a console collector. regardless of what console it is, the goal should be to play everything once. Something I have played more than once, though, is Perfect Dark Zero. I've played some of the online with a friend, as well as playing the campaign. And I must say, it's quite strange playing a game set in the future in 2020, in 2021. That's really interesting. It's quite funny seeing that and how they portrayed the future, even though the future was only, 14 years ago when the game came, years in advance when the game came out? It's quite ridiculous, honestly. But if you can suspend your disbelief from that, obviously, it's alright. It's definitely a relic sort of game from the time. Now, here's something I would recommend you pick up, because it's the only physical way to play this game, Plants vs. Zombies, is PopCap's Hits Volume 2. There is a Volume 1 as well, which has different games on it, but I bought this game only to play Plants vs. Zombies, because I wanted a physical copy. It comes with 3 other games as well there, Feeding Frenzy 2, Zuma, and Heavy Weapon, but Plants vs. Zombies is just so fun, I would highly recommend it. And even if you don't pick it up, I think they have a mobile version as well as PC and other consoles. It's such a fun strategy game. It's really, really good. However, something I recommend that the non-collector stays away from is a game that I've completed. Prey. Oh dear, Prey. This game is really ugly. There's something about its art style that really puts me off. It's all grey and beige and gooey, but it's not disgusting. It tries to be scary at times, but it just isn't. And I just kind of feel bad for Prey at the worst of times. Of course, you've got the Pro Evolution series here. My crowning achievement on the 360 being that I have all the achievements in PES 6. But of course I have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and if we go on to the next shelf over here, I also happen to have PES 14 and 18. They unfortunately span the shelf, which, oh well. Anyhow, moving on from the PES franchise, we have a game that I would recommend, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas. I've been playing Rainbow Six Vegas occasionally in my spare time on weekends. I think it's a really good game. There's something about it that's quite unique as a shooter. I'm a big fan of Siege, and it's interesting to see where Siege actually came from as a franchise. Another franchise that I'm a huge fan of, though, is the Red Dead Redemption franchise. Red Dead Redemption is great. I'm going for the 100%. I've beaten the campaign, and I'm doing the same on Red Dead Redemption 2, actually. I've beaten campaign and going for 100% all achievements. And, of course, there is the physical disc of Undead Nightmare, which you can also get both of these as one disc called Game of the Year Edition, which I would highly, highly recommend if you're going to just play the game. It gives you all the DLC on the disc as well, and which is really good. Here's quite an oddity that I picked up that I haven't played yet. The Rise of the Argonauts. It kind of reminds me of Rise, Son of Rome, the Xbox One launch game. So I thought it was quite interesting that we had that sort of Spartan-esque, Roman-esque game, and I intend to play it at some point as a result. A game that I didn't know existed until someone told me about it on Discord was Rockstar Games Presents Table Tennis. This was made to demonstrate Grand Theft Auto 5's engine, and yes, it demonstrates a very good engine, but I'm very strange that they made a table tennis game before Grand Theft Auto 5, really. Saints Row here. This is a franchise that I haven't found myself enjoying too much. It's quite a comical Grand Theft Auto style take, but it's never really been my thing, but I can completely understand why someone would. However, a game I did beat this year is Secret Service. This was quite a strange one. It was quite a patronisingly American game, but there were some decent shooter aspects in it, and it kind of reminded me of 007 Quantum of Solace from earlier on. It's genuinely enjoyable at the best of times, and at the worst of times it's just a bit patronising. There's also 3 Zero Gamer Score achievements in it that I found quite funny. I think they were blow yourself up with a grenade, fire an entire magazine without hitting something, and kill the president by accident. So I thought that was quite funny, and the game was pretty good as a whole. However, the last level kind of sucked, which put a damper on it. But regardless, it was okay. Excuse me. Now, if you're a fan of older consoles, Sega Mega Drive Collection is highly recommended. This is another collection of 40 games, but whereas you had the 40 games in Fusion Frenzy 2, which were rubbish minigames, these are full-on video games like Sonic the Hedgehog. They're really, really worth it. I'll just show you the back of the box here. There's the list there of some of the games. Let's just let that focus. That should be okay. There's some really quality games there, and if you're looking to see what games were like, especially if you're someone younger like myself, that's a really good way to view them, especially if you don't have all of the hardware. Now, another game I was playing was The Sims 3. I find this to be the best Sims game, at least on Xbox available, because The Sims 4 isn't as good. I just don't think it's as good. It's over-monetized, and there's a ton of DLC for the thing, and Pets has a physical release, The Sims 3 Pets, which I might get, but apart from that, there's nothing else I can really add to it. It's just a Sims game, play with life. That's essentially what you do. Now, here's quite a guilty pleasure game for me. It's Skylanders Giants. I actually really enjoy Skylanders. I used to play it for ages when I was younger, and I played through Spyro's Adventure and Giants, and I didn't play any more of them as the time went on. So Skylanders Giants is definitely something that I have a nostalgic connection to, and I'm playing it for that sake. But there's nothing else there to it, really. It's just something that reminds me of being younger. It's quite fun, though. I would recommend it. However, you're going to need to have several figures and the portal, so you need to have the right hardware and tech to actually play this game, which can make it quite difficult. Moving on to the next shelf now. One moment. There we go. South Park: The Stick of Truth over here. This game is really good. For a South Park RPG, I did not expect anything like this. It was incredible, especially because I like the show. However, it's censored in the EU, so if you live in America, highly, highly recommend picking it up. And if you live in the EU, just look up the censored bits when you're playing the game. It comes up with a part telling you that it's censored, which, oh wow, that sucks. Here's two games I remember playing, though. Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and The Force Unleashed 2. I really remember liking Force Unleashed 2, but I never owned the first one, so I'm playing through the first one in a goal to understand the context. I think that they're, in general, really good Star Wars games, even though they're non-canon in Star Wars anymore now, but that doesn't bother me, because I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. John Woo presents Stranglehold. I'm not going to say anything else about this game. If you know about it, you know about it. Terminator Salvation. Now, this is a game that appealed to the early achievement hunter. It's just play through the game once on the hardest difficulty, full 1000 gamer score. And yeah, what can I say? I've done it, and the game was pretty alright. I'm not a Terminator fan myself, but I thought that the characters were fairly well developed, and it was pretty enjoyable. Oh, whoops. I've got to hit the camera, sorry. So there you go. There are some golf games as well. We've got Tiger Woods PGA Tour 06, 07, 08, 09, and they're just golf games, really. I can't really add much more to that. And same thing over here with tennis games. I prefer the tennis games to the golf games, but I'd rather play Mario Tennis than Topspin. And UFC. Now, this is one to keep your eyes out for if you're actually looking to flip games. I believe UFC Undisputed 3 is worth about £10 to £15, which I don't know why, considering it's just a UFC game. Perhaps it's a later one, I assume. But 09 and 010 were before it, I believe, in releases, and these aren't too valuable, so I would still keep your eye out for it regardless. The Walking Dead. I've got the Game of the Year edition here, apparently, and this is a really good game. Again, if you're into your stories and the storytelling as opposed to the gameplay, I would recommend this. If you're much more gameplay orientated, I'd give it a pass. Brilliant zombie fiction. It's done really well. I would recommend giving it a go sometime. And then, of course, at the end here, we've got Watch Dogs as well, which I've beaten this on the Xbox One, and I've beaten it on the 360, and I did it just to see the comparison between the two versions, especially because Watch Dogs was touted as a next-gen experience. I would say it's fine on last-gen, to be honest. I was surprised how well it ran on the Xbox 360. I didn't expect anything like that from it, and I was fairly impressed overall. Definitely worth it if you don't have a modern console to play this game on, because it's a suitable version. So moving on to the last shelf here, which is right down against the floor and the carpet, so I'm going to have to get down for this one. We've got some wrestling games there. I've got, I believe it's 2K13 here, is physically sealed in amongst them. That's about the only interesting thing I can say, to be honest. I'm not a fan of wrestling myself. However, a good little game here is this Xbox Live Arcade compilation disc. We've got 5 games in there. There you are. And 5 trial games as well. You've got Luxor 2, Uno, Boom Boom Rocket, Pac-Man Championship, and Feeding Frenzy. Which means that both Feeding Frenzy games, because of PopCap Hits Volume 2, are actually available physically, which is really good because eventually, much like how the PlayStation 3 store is at the minute, we will lose the 360 store, and it's great to see that these games have a physical version. It also runs the Blades dashboard when you put in this disc, which means that you can see the old versions with the 360 dashboard, which is really cool and interesting, especially if you've never seen it before. It can be very interesting. A game I've played as well is XCOM Enemy Unknown. I do enjoy this as a strategy game. I'm not a big strategy game guy, but I thought that it was so well put together and designed for a Western audience that I understood what was going on. So I thought it was really, really, really good. And I would definitely give it a shot, especially if you're into military or tactics or anything like that. It's highly worth it. The other games I'd compare it to is a Halo Wars sort of thing. It's really, really fun. Now this game really annoys me because of its spine. You're in the movies. This is terrible. You need a camera, and it's a, look at me, I've got the camera accessory for the 360 game, where you're in the movies. And it's absolutely awful. I would give it a miss. Now, here at the end of the set is my double pack collection. As you can see, everything was in alphabetical order, but I do like a good double pack as and when I can find one. So I'll show you the front of them in case you ever see them. We've got Bioshock and Oblivion. This one's probably quite a common one. I bought that in a British Heart Foundation. Dead Island double pack with Riptide and Dead Island. That one's good. And then another charity shop pickup was Lego Indiana Jones and Kung Fu Panda. And then we've got Pure and Lego Batman as well. They're not too interesting, to be honest, but they're something that I quite enjoy getting, and I kind of count them as part of the full set. I'll get them when I can, but the full set is each individual title game to me. Talking about games as part of the full set, here we have the Kinect set that I have. There's nothing really here to mention, and I don't really have the room to actually play my Kinect, so I'm not really going to show you anything here, but we've got the Black Eyed Peas Experience, Fighters Uncaged, the Gunslinger, Kinect Adventures, which you find everywhere, Kinect Sports, Michael Jackson The Experience, Nat Geo America in the Wild, Motion Sports, Play for Real, Rise of Nightmares, and Your Shape Fitness Evolved. And the only one of these that is anything vaguely near interesting to me is Rise of Nightmares. This is a Kinect horror game published by Sega. And that's just such an interesting concept that even though I have a Kinect, I don't really have the room. So my first goal is, once I've cleared out the room to play it, I'm going to play this one because a Kinect horror game is just so interesting. Now, my only regional difference game in the collection is Fable 2. As you can see here, this is a NTSC J one. So I have a Japanese-only Fable 2. And I don't know how I have this. I believe I picked it up in a charity shop thinking it was just a regular Fable 2. It's really interesting that it's here. And then right at the end of the collection here, we have my collector's edition collection. So we have Steelbooks here, and the only proper collector's edition I own, which is Kane and Lynch Dead Men. I have Batman Arkham City, Bioshock, Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway, Clive Baker's Jericho, Tom Clancy's End War, and Gears of War 3. Now, some of these are of note, which I would say include Batman Arkham City, which has a lovely slip cover, to be honest. But the reason I bought this one was because it was only £1 in CEX, and it's quite difficult to get that off with one hand. And it was because of the back. The art on Joker here is absolutely phenomenal. I think this is incredible looking. It's really, really good game as well, as I mentioned earlier when I had the game's base version, and I would recommend playing it. And if you see this one, it's so worth it picking up. The other steelbook I would recommend out of these ones, if you're into steelbooks that is Bioshock. As you can see by the rusty aesthetic up here, if there's chipping at the top like there is there, it doesn't ruin it at all because it's just so beautiful looking with all the rust. It's the only one that ages well, especially if you live in somewhere like Australia, for example. It's worth picking up this steelbook because of the humidity, it will rust like this. And it's the only one that'll ever look good if it's in poor condition, if you understand what I'm saying. And of course, you've got the back of the box there as well, which is very similar to Bioshock's back of the box. And then over here, we have my two loose Xbox 360 games, which is Need for Speed Shift, which I already have, and Just Cause 2, which I don't already have. And as I mentioned earlier when I was pointing out Just Cause, I played this disc. I'm looking to get physical versions of these, or at least a cover and a manual, so one day these should be fully done. And last but not least, over here in the corner, I have Halo Reach Collector's Edition. I managed to pick this up for £2 on eBay, and it was just the fact that it was an incredible looking collector's edition of a game for £2. Who on earth wouldn't pick it up? So if I just take it out of the box here, you've got a full book for the game, which is really filled with details. You've got lots of little collectibles and things in there, and fan service. And then each and every page here is incredibly detailed. This is really, really good quality. It's dated and written in a diary format. I think it's really good looking. And so you've got drawings like this and diagrams. They're just so incredible. And as well as that, the game, interestingly, comes in a black case, which I thought was really quite cool. And I don't know if it default comes like this or if it's just my one specific copy, but regardless, I am going to keep it this way because I have a base version up at the top. So that, in all, is my Xbox 360 collection. So if I just stand up and do a panning shot now, that's what it looks like when I keep it normally. And yeah, I don't really have more to add to that. So hopefully next year I will update you on time and I will show off the 360 collection. If you have any recommendations, games I should pick up, or any comments about anything I own or where I got it from, please leave me a comment and I will reply. Thank you very much for watching. I've been SirBoberus. Thank you.